Hello, and welcome to the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast, where we go book by book through the mini varied library of the Dragonlance novels with my good friend, as always, Shivam.
Hi. I mean, hopefully someday we'll go book by book. Right now, this is the cresting the end of the second book, though, so that's kind of sick.
Yes, this is the final podcast for Dragons of Winter Night.
Yeah.
We do the last two chapters and the epilogue.
What a way to end, too. This is like, first off, this book is a humdinger top to bottom. It is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it goes right on through to the end. It is crazy.
Throughout the podcast, you've been calling it the Empire Strikes Back. And absolutely, everything ends on a down note here.
Oh, yeah,
we'll talk about it more at the end, but like when you finish this book, okay, Tanis is a bad guy.
Yeah.
Raistlin is corrupted by the dragon orbs.
Nothing as good is happening to anyone. Everybody's lost every battle.
Yeah.
What the hell? But it's that cliche, right? It's always darkest before the dawn, which is not true. It's kind of light. But winter night goes to spring dawning, and you can't have that dawning without that night. I don't know. I still think that the naming scheme of twilight, night, and dawn is so good. It's so good. And it really just sets up the moods and expectations of what these books are.
And pairing it with like autumn, winter, and spring.
Oh my God, it's such a perfect.
It's so perfect that it's shocking that someone else didn't use it before. Like there wasn't a series of books.
Right? It's always just made me sad that like Summer Flame didn't go like Summer Noon, but that would be stupid. Dragons of Summer Noon or whatever. Maybe Dragons of the Summer Zenith. I don't know. What would you call it?
You could think of something that would work. Summer.
Yeah. Summer time zone. Yeah. Summer brunch.
It's a very different book. The Chronicle Dragons of Summer Brunch. Cover has a couple dragons holding teacups, some scones.
That would be a phenomenal parody. But so here we are in chapter 13 of book 3 of Dragon of Winter Night. The sun rises and darkness descends. That's a ominous pair-up.
The chapter art is fantastic.
Oh my God. I literally just wanted to talk about how utterly insane that art is. It might be like the most elaborate one of any of the chapters so far, of just that dragon with the giant spear coming down and like
its wings spread up against the moon and like the castle there, or it's the sun.
Man, I wonder if we could just steal that and use that for our logo. That would be a sick podcast logo, wouldn't it?
It's too small. In an icon, it would be too small.
Yeah, in an icon, I guess it would be too small. But man, it has been a long time since I've seen this piece of art. And this is just, this is the chapter in a nutshell.
Dragons just seem to have been smaller in the past.
They were.
Yeah. That's supposed to be Sky, I believe, a blue dragon.
Yeah.
He's big, but he's not big.
Dragons have steadily grown in size over the decades and stuff. Like if I pull up the monster manual, the first edition monster manual, which was basically the source for this book, dinosaurs, no. Doppelgangers, no. There we go. Dragons.
First edition had dinosaurs?
Dude, first edition had all sorts of weird crap in the monster manual. They were just like because there were dinosaurs in Mystara in the known world, which was meant to be sort of like this.
Mystara's like Savage World, Hollow Earth kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So let's see here. So like looking at a green dragon, for instance, let's see, what are the sizes of dragons? Size, large, 36 feet long. 36 feet is not a very long dragon, right? Like the blue dragon was 42 feet long, maybe at tops. And then when you think, and it can shoot a bolt of lightning that's in a straight line, 1/2 inch wide by 10 inches long.
What?
Because in the old days, when you know how we have like hexes and grids and stuff, they measured all the distances and things for damage and stuff in inches, because that's how far you would be stretching on the playmat. It's super funny to think about, because it's like you're reading this like it's 42 feet, but his breath is only a couple of inches. It's like static, you know. So let me pull up the dragons in second edition. Chromatic black, chromatic blue. size. Once again, it's 42 feet. But when you look at like 5th edition or whatever, they're much, much bigger.
Okay. It makes for better art. If the silhouette of the dragon here was like blocking out the sun and everything, it wouldn't be as dynamic and cool looking.
In any case, like the dragons have become much, much larger as time has gone on, because when you look, for instance, we look at Kisanth and Dragon of Autumn Twilight, in the pictures, it's just this tiny little thing popping out of, it looks like maybe twice the size of a human coming out of the well there. And I mean, even be able to fit into a well in Zaxaroth and fly out means you have to be pretty small. But like when you look at the dragons as they go throughout the ages and as Dragonlance gets bigger and bigger, these dragons become ultra huge, gigantic behemoths the size of buildings and towns or whatever. In this day and age, it was still pretty small. They're still pretty light and small and kind of like slender. I think D&D just decided that dragons should be big and cool because they're dragons.
Anyway, cool picture on the front of the chapter.
Dragons are cool.
The dragons in the game stats are never as big as in the art because it just looks cooler to draw a bigger dragon.
Yeah.
It just looks cooler to have a big, ginormous dragon.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big, cool mini on the table. You know, it's fun. But in any case, here we are on the dawn of the last day. And the chapter even starts that way. Like the fog is lifting with the coming of the morning. The day dawned bright and clear, so clear that Sturm, walking on the battlements, could see the snow-covered grasslands of his birthplace near Vingard Keep, lands now completely controlled by the dragon armies. He was born in Castle Brightblade, which is right outside of Vingard.
The lands that he should be lord over are here somewhere, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not close. It's still pretty far from where they are. But it's like, it's so clear. It's like, you know, when you're in San Francisco and you can see all the way to the, like, or on a clear day from Oakland, you can see all the way to the Golden Gate Bridge type of thing. You know, it's like you can see very far on this clear day. And it's
in Monterey, sometimes you can see all the way across the Santa Cruz and vice versa, across the Monterey Bay.
Yeah. God, I love Monterey. Let me pull the map up real quick so I can just... Dragonlance has always had the coolest maps. Yeah, so from the High Claire's Tower to like Vingard Keep is... Yeah, it's like not close. It's a couple 100 miles away or something.
That's an incredibly clear day.
Yeah. I mean, what is the scale on this map? 200 miles. Let's see that. So yeah, it's about 100 miles away, maybe.
Okay.
Give or take.
And those dragon armies that he sees are marching on the tower, and he's got just 100 knights to defend it.
No big deal. We can handle it.
And he thinks about Derek and all the other knights were led into a trap, that their bodies are just all over the field. Now that it's clear and day, he can see the ruin that was delivered to the knights by the dragon armies.
His people were decimated.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly what Sturm realizes later on. He's like, oh, hey, the evil knights did exactly what is the standard old school tactic. They did a retreat, which made all the overconfident knights want to chase after them. And in chasing after them, they got obliterated.
Yeah, they were enveloped.
They fell into a trap.
Drew them into the center of the army, and then you had the two wings of your army wrap around and attack them from the back.
Yep. GG.
Sturm is having his midlife crisis. I mean, he already started it because he's abandoned the measure, and he's wondering, like, why am I fighting for these people? I've never known Solamnia. I don't know these people.
I thought that was actually a really poignant line there. As he thought about dying, he looked upon the land where he'd been born, a home he had barely known, a father he barely remembered, a country that had driven his family into exile. He was about to give his life to defend this country. Why? Why didn't he just leave and go back to Palanthas? All his life he had followed the code and the measure, the code, est solaris oth misath. My honor is my life. The code was all he had left. The measure was gone. It had failed. Rigid, inflexible, the measure had encased the knights in steel heavier than their armor. The knights, isolated, fighting to survive, had clung to the measure in despair, not realizing there was an anchor weighing them down. And it's just like, why was I different, Sturm wondered. But he knew the answer even as he listened to the dwarf grumble. It's because of the dwarf, the kender, the mage, the half-elf. They had taught him to see the world through other eyes, slanted eyes, smaller eyes, even hourglass eyes. Knights like Derek saw the world in stark black and white. Sturm had seen the world in all its radiant colors, in all its bleak grayness. It's time, he said to Flint. The two descended from high lookout point just as the first of the enemy's poison-tipped arrows arched over the walls. With shrieks and yells, the blaring of horns and clashing of shield and sword, the dragon army struck the tower of the High Clerist as the sun's brittle light filled the sky. I love that paragraph. It's so sick.
It's so good.
It's so like just important in multiple ways because it's showing just the strength of character, and also that he's like, look, I don't care that these people left me to die. This is not the point. My point is my job is to protect them, whoever they are, against this overwhelming evil that we all have to unify against. And that's such a strong message.
He asks, like, why did I see it when no one else in the Knights could? And he says, oh, I saw it because of my cosmopolitanism, right? Like, diversity is our strength.
Yeah. His story is that entire thing, right?
It's great because he constantly disagrees with those slanted eyes, those smaller eyes, and those hourglass eyes. It's not that they agree all the time. It's that being challenged and having to see the world in other ways is what made him better at recognizing what was good in the measure and the code, right? What is honor? Well, does honor just matter to me, Knights of Solamnia? Well, then that's not really honor. How are you honoring someone if you don't treat them as a person, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a great message that he says here. Oh, the reason Derek failed in the end is because Derek can't see the world as it is. He can't see all the colors. He can't see all the grays. And because I have awful friends like Raceland and wonderful friends like Laurana,
Yeah.
I can see some of that color and I can see some of that gray.
It's also, he just by exposure and by adventuring together, he realizes that these people might have different perspectives, but the goal here is the same, which is to, bring justice to the people and freedom from the evil, the Dark Knights and like Takesis and the dragon armies. It's kind of wild because Sturm is having this awakening at the end of his life, right? Like, come on, man.
Spoilers.
I guess. So the dragon armies,
they fight him off for a whole day.
Well, I mean, the tower is a hell of a defense.
Yeah, looking at the maps of this, it's just an impressive fortification. Even if they don't understand what half of it's for until soon, it's just very impressive.
The top half is all locked away and stuff, so they can't even go there. But even with just the walls themselves, it's still an incredible place to like protect.
It has huge walls, and so they have a huge advantage. And it says, by nightfall, the flag still flew, the tower stood, but half its defenders were dead.
Yeah, so they have like 50 people left.
Or 50 knights, and then whatever auxiliary forces they have.
This is the last stand, if there's ever going to be a stand, right? And so the dragon armies are advancing, and Sturm is just pacing on the battlements, just thinking about what's going on. And suddenly, Laurana is behind him, and Flint is there with him. And once again, Sturm tries to get Laurana to leave, and Laurana's like, no, I'm not leaving. I've got too much to do, and I'm not going to leave you here to die. Flint is like resigned to death. Sturm is resigned to death. And they're both like, if Laurana dies, this is a disaster for us. Princess, the daughter of the elves, and this is not going to be good for the morale of everything.
And Sturm's like, we just have to hold off for 2 days at a minimum. He's holding on to that last straw. Help will come from Palanthas if we hold off 2 days.
Yeah, sure it will, buddy. And of course, Tas is just kind of curled up and sleeping on the battlements because he doesn't care one way or the other.
They can't sleep.
No.
They just sit there at the top of the towers watching.
Yeah.
And then the morning comes, the dragon armies start to move, and they begin to retreat. And they think like, oh, we have hope. And then Tas, with his very sharp eye, says, no, they're not retreating. Dragons are coming. They see blue dragons approaching, 3 of them.
Yeah. 3 blue dragons. Like, I don't know how Taz's eyes are better than the elf's eyes. That's like a continuity error, but it also is, he's just good at looking for things.
It's just always on the look.
Yeah, it's just something cool is out there. Let's take it.
Laurana tells Sturm that her and Tas know how to use the dragon orbs they found.
Well, first off, that there is a dragon orb.
He told him that last time. Remember, he confessed that he found an orb, and she said, oh, we need to know how to use it.
You're right. She's like, the one here beneath the tower in the very center. And they see the 3 long hallways leading into it. And then suddenly she understands how the thing works. Like, she has a vision of like dragons flying down these hallways, go with these weird portcullises going towards the dragon orb. She's like, aha, Sturm, I figured it out. I know how to kill the dragons. I just need time. And Sturm grabs her and he's like, all right, you're in charge.
He's like, tell me quickly what's going to happen. She explains it to him. And then he says, okay, I'll get you the time.
Yeah. And she's like, what do you mean I'm in charge?
She doesn't recognize what's happening at first.
Mm.
And then she does. Flint recognizes what's happening.
Hang on one second. I need to look for one thing. I have to go back to Autumn Twilight for a second.
I'll read this line right here if I can. He says, you can command Laurana, Sturm said, taking her head in his hands. Leaning forward, he kissed her gently. Farewell, elf maid, he said softly. Your light will shine in this world. It is time for mine to darken. Don't grieve, dear one. Don't cry. He held her close. The Forest Master said to us in Darken Wood that we should not mourn those who have fulfilled their destiny. Mine is fulfilled. Now hurry, Laurana. You'll need every second. At least take the dragonlance with you, she begged. Sturm shook his head, his hand on the antique sword of his father. I don't know how to use it. Goodbye, Laurana. Tell Tanis. He stopped, then he sighed. No, he said with a slight smile. He will know what was in my heart. Sturm. Laurana tears choked her into silence. She could only stare at him in mute appeal. Go, he said. Stumbling blindly, Laurana turned around and somehow made her way down the stairs to the courtyard below. Here she felt a strong hand grasp hers. Flint, she began, sobbing painfully. Sturm. I know, Laurana, the dwarf replied. I saw it in his face. I think I've seen it there for as long as I can remember. It's up to you now. You can't fail him. Yeah. Tas doesn't pick up on what's saying goodbye here. So Sturm is going to create time for Laurana and Tas and Flint to do whatever they need to prepare the tower to deal with the dragons.
There's a bit of a continuity error here. Laurana wasn't there during the time the Forest Master was there. She wasn't in that scene. She didn't join the party until after they had left, been taken slaves, and then come back. Oh, I read this line wrong. He says, the Forest Master said to us. So he's telling her that the Forest Master said.
He could just mean the generic companions. Yeah, like to the...
Yeah.
They said to us, the companions.
In Darken Wood, yeah, exactly. Because I was like, wait a second, Laurana wasn't there. But she understands the message, though. And she's like, come on, at least take the Dragonlance. And he's like, no, I don't know how to use it. I'm good. You keep that.
Part of it is, I think Sturm wants to die here.
Sturm absolutely wants to die. Because, like, first off, aside from the whole, like, I need to give them time and I need to protect them, he's always had this, I want to die with my sword in my hand, fighting for justice, having the hero's death. He's selfless, but at the same time, he's also always had this ego.
It's a bit of a death wish. I want to die saving my friends.
Yeah.
And now this perfect opportunity has presented itself to die saving my friends.
He's like, this is exactly what a paladin has given me.
I'm a little confused about how complicated a lance is. He is a trained knight. He should have some proficiency in all sorts of weapons.
Look, any knight who doesn't know how to ride on a horse holding a jousting lance, are you kidding me?
You can just throw it. It's a throwable weapon.
It's just a light spear. It's a very long spear.
We know it can be thrown because that's how they destroyed the Whitestone, because it was thrown by...
Yeah, by Theros.
Take it and just throw it at the dragon.
Yeah, but if he misses, he's way off, right? And then there's a lance just off somewhere. But it's also like, if there's a dragon coming full bore at you, just hold the spear and point it upwards.
Mm-hmm.
Poke it in the nose. It's more like he's like, I'm going to go down with my father's sword in my hand.
Yeah. It's much more epic this way.
Yeah, and sometimes that's really all there is to it.
He climbs up to a higher tower while Laurana and the others are running down to ready themselves and command the remaining knights. And he sees the 3 dragons approaching. He sees the dragon High Lord riding the lead. He salutes his friend and the knights below, and then he turns to face the dragons. I guess he has a bow and arrow here because he starts firing them.
Yeah.
At the lead dragon to draw its attention. And, he tore the wing of one of the other ones.
He pokes Kalendros in the nose and just like, okay, fine. I'll deal with you first.
He and the Dragon High Lord engage. I can't imagine how difficult it must be, not only for Sturm to fight like a person on a dragon, but for the person on the dragon to fight down while your dragon is hovering. It seems very complicated, this fight.
Well, it feels like that's where you would be wanting to use bows and arrows from up there.
Yeah.
Or really, just hold on to the dragon and point and say, breathe there.
Yes, that would be the ideal way to do it.
Like, why are you even kidding with knives and swords and stuff?
Well, we know why.
A lance at least is like 18 feet long, so you can poke someone with it.
He hears a trumpeting.
Before we get further, though, one of the things that's really sick about this scene is written so beautifully and evocatively. And the way that they describe it is just so sick. You see, sunlight flashing from his ornately carved blade. You see, like, the way that the colorations are mentioned and the sparkle of the light coming. When he describes the Dragon High Lord, you see the High Lord is on the saddle, which is built like a chariot, so it could accommodate its rider in a standing position, holding a spear, so that it's like this gigantic charioteer on the back of a dragon with a huge spear. And yeah, he hears that horn, and we all remember what happened the last time Sturm heard a horn. It happened even in this book. He hears the horn, he answers the call with his battle cry, he hears the horn again, he answered again, but this time his voice is faltering because now he remembers the dream. And he stops, and suddenly the wave of dragon fear just kind of comes over him. Because he's one lone man standing up against this giant magical beast. And suddenly, Sturm's hand is sweating. He's having trouble holding onto his sword. There's fear in his stomach. His skin is growing cold. It's not even the horn call. It's the dragon fear that's just addling his brains. And he's like, oh God, I gotta run. And then he's like, no. He grabbed hold of himself. Everything else was gone. His ideals, his hopes, his dreams. The knighthood was collapsing. The measure had been found wanting. Everything in his life was meaningless. His death must not be so. He would buy Laurana time, buy it with his life, since that was all that he had to give. And he would die according to the code, since that was all he had to cling to. Raising his sword in the air, he gave the knight salute to the enemy. To his surprise, it was returned with grave dignity by the Dragon High Lord. Then the dragon dove, its jaws open, preparing to slash the knight apart with its razor-sharp teeth. Sturm swung his sword in a vicious arc, forcing the dragon to rear its head back or risk decapitation. Sturm hoped to disrupt its flight, but the creature's wings held it steady, its riders guiding it with a sure hand while holding the gleam-tipped spear in the other. Man. I'm just going to, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to read the rest of this because this is the best paragraph in the book. Sturm faced east. Half blinded by the sun's brilliance, Sturm saw the dragon as a thing of blackness. He saw the creature dip in its flight, diving below the level of the wall, and he realized the blue was going to come up from beneath, giving its rider room needed to attack. The other two dragon riders held back, watching, waiting to see if their lord required help finishing this insolent knight. For a moment, the sun-drenched sky was empty, and then the dragon burst up over the edge of the wall, its horrifying scream splitting Sturm's eardrums, filling his head with pain. The breath from its gaping mouth gagged him. He staggered dizzily but managed to keep his feet as he slashed out with his sword. The ancient blade struck the dragon's left nostril. Black blood spurted into the air. The dragon roared in fury. But the blow was costly and Sturm had no time to recover. The dragon High Lord raised his spear, its tip flaming in the sun. Leaning down, he thrust it deep, piercing through armor, flesh, and bone. Sturm's sun shattered. Oh my God.
And that's how the chapter ends.
The literal best line, one of the all-time best lines in the history of Dragonlance. Sturm's sun shattered. Alliteration. It feels Norse. It feels like an old Viking saga. And
yeah, it's not like his breath left his lungs or the light dimmed from his eyes. It's the sun shattered.
Oh, what a good line. Because one of the things, if you know anything about Old English poetics, about Beowulf saga and about the other sagas that the old Vikings and Anglo-Saxons had, their emphatic moments came through alliteration. They used alliterative language to drive home this sort of big poetic moments. So for Sturm's sun shattered, while he's sitting there in this Viking, Valhalla defeat, one man against death, it's so good. It is so evocative of like English literature, of just like poetic death, and just has rhythm, especially since the chapter started with sun climbed high in the air, right? So it's just this whole loop of it is one of the greatest lines they've ever written, hands down.
It does remind me of a line from Beowulf that I love, and it's, "Wise sir, do not grieve. It is always better to avenge dear ones than to indulge in mourning. For every one of us, living in this world means waiting for our end.
Oh,
Let whoever can win glory before death. When a warrior is gone, that will be his best and only bulwark.
what a line. Wow. Damn, that you had that on hand too. That's hella cool.
It's just one of my, like, for every one of us living in this world means waiting for our end. Let whoever can win glory before death. Like, it's just, it sees the day, but much more poetic, much more evocative and vivid.
Oh, I love it.
And then when you're gone, only your deeds, right? That's the bulwark you have. The things that you did will keep people remembering you. And that's certainly how Sturm has done it here in the end. He has made an action that will save all of his friends.
Yeah, and Tracy has an actual relative note here in the annotated chronicles. While working on the chronicle story, I came across a Norse legend about a clan or a king who stood upon a battlement of his fortress. He saw an arrow flying towards him, and in an instant saw a vision of his destiny. The arrow would kill him, but his death would inspire his own warriors to crush their enemies in his name. His death would be the stuff of ballad for generations, and his future in Valhalla assured. Even as a vision glowed within him, his wife threw herself in the arrow's path, shot by the arrow meant for her husband, and, in the Norse legend, robbed her husband of his destiny. While I did not like the ancient sexism inherent in the tale, the idea of sacrificing one's life at the apex of destiny stayed with me in Sturm. Sturm's death was no whim. It was his destiny in the story and his greatest act of sacrifice. Sturm became the catalyst for the Knights to finally be forged as one. Destined or not, you should know that Margaret and I both cried when he died, even as we typed the words.
Yeah, but that's the end of chapter 13, man. It's just...
I remember when I got to this as a kid, and I was like, no! You just scream out. This is like, just holy crap. What?
It's this. I think I cried when this, and then when Kuruk dies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, in
Diamond Throne.
Yeah.
No, Diamond Throne, Ruby Knight.
No, the Alenium and the Tamalai.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Kuruk was so good.
When Kuruk dies at the end of the Alenium. Oof.
Oh. You know what, man? We really ought to do a spin-off side podcast just talking about the Alenium and Tamalai, because I love those books.
Before we start with chapter 14, we want to thank everyone for being a listener. If you'd like to support the podcast, please give us positive reviews on Apple, iTunes, and wherever you listen. The reviews get
the algorithm going.
You can also review us in Spotify and whatever of your podcatcher of choices at this point. I think they all have reviews. We would love a 5-star review, so we appreciate it. You can also contribute at our Patreon page. Benefits include seeing the show notes, getting a shout out, being part of the Discord, communicating with us, and all the details for that are at www.patreon.com/Chronicles of Dragonlance podcasts. Links are in the show notes. And as part of the benefits of being a Patreon supporter, for those who are $5 patrons, we give you a shout out here. So here we go. Wish me luck on these names, as I think to myself every time we do a recording. Alexander Louis, Nicholas Campo, Swardango, Chris Andrew, Jason Bledsoe, Brandon Brown, John Merlino Jr., Jane Newolf, Andrew Arsenal, Todd Fisher, Iskander Bilge, Matthew Williams, Kevin Don, Eric Schold, Parish Patel, Robert Fisher, Tom Bertram, Scott Williams, The Nine Duncan, Ilya Tuluk, and Adam Squires. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate it.
Chapter 14, Dragon Orb, Dragonlance. Oh, what a cool title. What a cool title. Oh, I love it. Laurana is running. The knights are surging behind her to get into the High Clerist's Tower to, get to their places. The courtyard is empty, and Laurana knows that she should go, but she sees silhouetted in the rising sun the dragons there. Well, I'm just going to read this chunk here. Then silhouetted in the rising sun, she saw the dragons. Sword and spear flashed in the brilliant sunlight. Laurana's world stopped turning. Time slowed to a dream. The sword drew blood. The dragon screamed. The spear held poised for an eternity. The sun stood still. The spear struck. A glittering object fell slowly from the top of the wall into the courtyard. The object was Sturm's sword, dropped from his lifeless hand, and it was, to Laurana, the only movement in a static world. The knight's body stood still, impaled upon the spear of the dragon High Lord. The dragon hovered above, its wings poised. Nothing moved, Everything held perfectly still. Then the High Lord jerked the spear free, and Sturm's body crumpled where he stood, a dark mass against the sun. The dragon roared in outrage, and a bolt of lightning streaked from the blue's blood-frothed mouth and struck the High Cleric's tower. With a booming explosion, the stone burst apart. Flames flared brighter than the sun. The other two dragons dove for the courtyard as Sturm's sword clattered to the pavement with a ringing sound. Time began. God, these chapters. These are so... I mean, Margaret was at her peak. Oh my God, these are just such good, evocative, and like you could see every second of it. It is hard to write a battle.
Isn't this the first fantasy she ever wrote? Were these books?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, she wrote some other books that I don't think they were fantasy before this.
There's some romance novels.
Yeah. Which is funny because you say she doesn't even like the romance.
Her ability to write battles and to focus on the one moment of like that matters. You can hear the clashing around it and you can just see it's so good.
The High Lord waves the army forward. Laurana runs, grabs Sturm's sword, lets out a battle cry, and then she runs into the portcullis like she's the bait for these dragons. She runs into the first portcullis, the dragon stopping behind, past the second portcullis, past knights in cover holding dragonlances, through the third portcullis with the hole in the center, into a final room protected by 4 knights in flint, and into the chamber of the dragon where the dragon orb and Tas wait. So if you get a sense, again, there's like bigger doors, rooms, smaller doors, rooms, smallest door, center.
Mm-hmm. I still question having that hole in the center. I understand what it's for, to hold the snout of the dragon or whatever.
Yeah.
Why don't they just breathe between their teeth? What if it's a smaller dragon than the one you're fighting? When I was working with Margaret on the new Dragonlance novels, and they take place in the High Cleric's Tower.
Yeah. You talked before about how you came up with a history for it and had to redesign.
Yeah, because we were looking at this design and she's like, why would they build it like this? This is the dumbest design ever. And I was like, dude, look, when you wrote it, you should have figured about that.
Well, I think they were probably going from the module maps, which like it certainly says like this is just built to kill dragons here at the bottom. They don't have a choice.
Yeah, basically. The thing about the modules, though, and this was, I think, a DL8. No, was it DL8, Dragon of War? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's 8 because you can have a battle here. Like I remember reading the module where you could use like D&D's battle system.
And it's also got the map of the High Cleric's Tower, which is super cool. I ended up pulling out my own copy of 8 so that I could have the map handy because like the PDF kind of splits it up in weird ways.
Yes, it does.
In the High Cleric's Tower, hang on a second. So let me read to you the explanation of the dragon trap as it was in DL8 Dragons of War. The central hall is formed of ornate stone walls in a herringbone formation. Each side wall encloses a dark passage leading away from the central hall. At the far end of the hall, 2 iron grills come out of each side wall to form a portcullis with a 3-foot diameter hole in the center. Beyond that's an octagonal room with a double golden door opposite the iron portcullis. This is a dragon trap. A dragon orb is activated in the central room. Any dragon within range is called to it. The way it's set up here is that there's these... let me just read to you, because this text here is funny, actually. The portcullis in Area 31 was dropped once the dragon was in Area 32, which is like... So the first one is the tower doors, the entrance with the main portcullis. Then these are slammed shut when the dragon's head enters, holding the head and the breath weapons in room 32C. Knights can then attack it from the side, killing it easily. This method would disgust modern-day knights because they have forgotten the spirit of the measure. Pre-cataclysmic knights knew that evil must be defeated, and dishonor came from not using all available means to accomplish this. The dragon trap was safe and sure, and much honor was earned in defeating evil dragons this way. Come on, that's just module text. That's not even story. That's just for the DM to read to himself, just describing the room. And I'm like, that seems like the lady doth protest a little, you know, like... Like, maybe you know that this is a little sleazy way of killing these dragons, buddy.
It's absolutely set up to just, like, use the orb that makes dragons have to obey it, and then as they move through, lock them up, and then finally separate their heads so they can't turn around and fight. Their head is stuck in a room, and then just have the knights just stick spears in their sides till they die.
It really is just like... old school penning a fish or something like that in a river, or some other kind of just horrifying killing room.
shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah. And I can definitely see why like they would have to put that little disclaimer in, because they'd be like, yeah, every knight player is going to be like, hell no. We're not giving him a fighting chance. We're just stabbing him in the stomach.
And that's exactly what these knights do in chapter 14. Tas tries to warn Laurana not to use the orb. He's like, look, it could take control of you. And she says, we don't have a choice. And she just grabs it.
Yeah, it goes to town. And I'm like, I don't recommend that.
Tas wishes he had broken this orb too. Laurana shudders, falls to her knees, muttering in Elven. The orb flared, white light pours from it. Laurana stood tall and straight, smiles, and then passes out. And then outside, the dragons are just like tearing this tower apart. And all of a sudden, the dragons lose focus, but like they're hearing something.
Yeah.
And they answer the orb's call. They ignore their riders. Some of them get knocked off. When the light that comes from the orb reaches the Draconians, they go insane. So now we know that the dragon orb does affect Draconians.
Yeah.
We'll learn why exactly in book 3.
Well, I mean, it says so right here, right?
Does it say?
Yeah, it says that.
Oh, but Draconians who were only part dragon heard the call as a deafening voice shouting garbled commands. Each one heard the voice differently. Each one received a different call. Okay.
Yeah.
So the orb sounds clear to dragons calling it.
Mm-hmm.
It just drives the Draconians mad. So the goblins...
Anything that would have dragon blood of any kind would get impacted in this way.
Yeah. So the goblins flee because their partners are going mad, and it just leaves like the few remaining humans standing around stunned because they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we've described, those dragons pass the first portcullis, slow down to get through the second, and then finally in the third, Flint activates the mechanism that traps their heads in the third part. With its body outside, there's like a steel door protecting Laurana and Tas in the very center. And then the knights just begin butchering these dragons. There's nothing to do.
What else are you going to do, right? Like, these guys are here. These dragons are going to kill them.
The noise is so awful, and the sounds of butchery so obscene. It says that even Tas pities even these evil beings.
Tas is like an innocent kid, right? Like, he doesn't like seeing people hurt in any way, shape, or form. And he's just like, this paragraph is also really just poignant here. Tas covered his ears with his hand, trying to block out the awful sound. Over and over, he pictured the terrible destruction he had seen, the dragons recon towns, the innocent people they had slaughtered. The dragon would have killed him, too, he knew. Killed him without mercy. It had probably already killed Sturm. He kept reminding himself of that, trying to harden his heart. But the Kender buried his head in his hands and wept. Laurana comes to him and taps him on the shoulder and is gently like, Tas, it's okay. Laurana, I'm sorry, I shouldn't care what they do to the dragon, but I can't stand it. Why must there be killing? I can't stand it. Tears streaked his face. And then Laurana is like one of the most important lines in this whole book. I know, Laurana murmured, vivid memories of Sturm's death mingling with the shrieks of the dying dragon. Don't be ashamed, Tas. Be thankful that you could feel pity and horror at the death of an enemy. The day we cease to care, even for our enemies, is the day that we have lost this battle. Oh,
that's a good line.
Oh, what a good line.
No wonder Sturm put her in charge.
Oh, yeah. The Golden General becoming the new boss is the single thing that saved all of Dragonlance.
The second dragon enters, starts going through the rooms, but this time the steel door doesn't drop down. That's supposed to block the dragon from blowing whatever its breath effect is. It shoots lightning into the room where the dragon orb is. Tas and Laurana flee. They see that the door doesn't close, so they run away. There's a bunch of rubble that either destroyed or buries this third dragon orb they have now found.
The chamber basically gets smashed in.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a load-bearing wall right there. This is how you know that this is not what they intended. How the people who built the tower did not intend for there to be a dragon trap in there or whatever. Because when you look at this, the way this thing is built, if you've got a gigantic 1,000,000-ton tower of stone above this giant pit in the ground, it's not going to be good, right? Like when the dragon orb chamber gets blown up,
the tower collapses.
It's already been weakened from blasts on the outside. So hitting it in the foundation, in the central foundation room, and knocking down all of the whole things that are holding up this entire weight causes the entire central tower to basically just start to collapse.
It is a little strange that if, as the module said, they killed lots of dragons here.
They didn't kill lots of dragons here. They built it after the Dragon War.
Oh, but the module said that there were like many a night, one victory killing dragons here.
Yeah, they'd like you to believe that.
Well, and I just wonder, like, why does lightning destroy stone? Right? When
it's impact.
Got it, it's impact. Okay.
Because the lightning does not just it doesn't do like electric damage too. It also does like physical blunt damage.
Okay.
Just the pressure of the lightning going through it. And if you've seen a lightning strike can blow up chunks of stone. I've been out in a national park during lightning storms, and I've seen the impact that a bolt can have on a rock, and it's crazy. It's cool.
Got it.
If you hit it at full bore, at full blast, straight up, it's going to hit you with it's going to smash through the rock, man. But it's also like the tower itself has just been hammered. So it's not like exactly a very stable building right now.
Well, they were destroying it from the outside as well before they came inside.
Right.
So 2 dragons are dead. The tower is collapsed.
Well, it's collapsing. This is why when we were talking about this, I was like, this is illogical. This is not how this tower should be. This tower being a high clerics tower, this bottom area should be a temple that they reconfigure after Huma's death into a dragon killing trap. Because why would they want to make it? Think about it. This trap requires you to use a dragon orb.
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about this, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, I'm not going to go over it again. Go back and listen to that episode where we talk about the tower in the first place.
The tower is wrecked at this point. Laurana and Tas emerge from a tunnel into the courtyard. Tower's gone, as we said. The outer walls are still standing, but there's no armies. And then she sees Sturm's body. Tas learns of it, and he cries again because now he's just learned that his good friend Sturm is dead.
Also, that tower falling should have been a huge impact, not just like kind of collapsing onto itself. Yeah, sure, I could believe that, but it's also 12, 15 stories tall. It's gigantic, and it's made of like intense amounts of stone. It should hit something.
It said it fell in upon itself, like it collapsed. It was a controlled 9/11 truthers for the High Clerics Tower.
It says lightning can't destroy stone beams.
High Clerics truthers here saying that, it was a controlled demolition because the tower fell in on itself. There were no dragons.
Yeah, right.
There was no third dragon.
If there's anything like that in the module.
Oh, about it falling apart?
Yeah. Let's see. So we've gone through and solved the High Clerics Tower mystery and rallied the knights. Now we have to defeat the dragon army. The final battle only ends when the knights are driven or the dragon army retreats. Let's see here. If the PCs are not able to reach the solution to the game before the 4 months of the adventure clock run out, then the final battle will begin against overwhelming dragon army forces. Got to get on it, buddy. So they use the dragon orb. It causes a madness on the draconians. It routs them. They all run. Yaris and the knights join the battle. And then, if you lose the battle, then the High Clerics Tower basically gets wrecked by the dragons. But if you win the battle, then the first blow of the Warrior of the Lands has been struck. But anyways, so that depends on what the players decide to do.
Got it.
But here, the tower has collapsed upon itself. Laurana is out there.
She's worried about Sturm's body being mutilated, so she grabs a dragon lance and runs up She gets there. She notices some sparkling jewelry by his body, and she's astonished by what she could see. Before she can wonder what it means, the High Lord and their dragon. And we learn that the High Lord was able to keep their dragon under control, right? I guess she's so talented and Sky is so attuned that...
Basically, Sky made a saving throw, right? Like he made a saving throw and he had bonuses to his stats from being in such concert with his rider. And, there's all sorts of reasons why. It's something it's like, okay, it's a little cheeseball, but it's also like, I believe it.
You have to have this moment here. So if they had just killed a third dragon and eliminated Kitiara from and a mob of knights stabbed her while her dragon was executed is not quite the story we're going for. That would have been really anticlimactic. So the High Lord lands, the dragon fear strikes her.
And the dragonlance drops, the jewel drops.
Yeah.
And then Laurana drops.
And then, yeah, she drops. And this is, she also recalls the dream from Sylviana, and she thinks she's like, this is where I died in the dream as well. So I'm going to die.
Yeah, so she grabs for the dragonlance that's on the ground next to her in the snow, but a black boot slams down on the lance, narrowly missing her hand, and Laurana stares at this shining black boot, decorated with gold work that gleams in the sun, and she stares at the boot standing in Sturm's blood, and draws a deep breath. Touch his body and you will die, Laurana said softly. Your dragon will not be able to save you. The knight was my friend, and I will not let his killer defile his body. I have no intention of defiling the body, the Dragon High Lord said. Moving with elaborate slowness, the High Lord reached down and gently shut the knight's eyes, which were fixed upon the sun he would see no more. The High Lord stood up, facing the elf maid who knelt in the snow, and removed the booted foot from the dragonlance. You see, he was my friend too. I knew, the moment I killed him. Ho 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 ho!
Kitiara is stone cold.
Stone cold! And so Laurana and Kit have their first meeting and conversation. It's not a good time for Laurana.
Calmly, the Dragon High Lord removed the hideous horned dragon mask. I think you might have heard of me, Lauralanthalasa. That is your name, isn't it? Laurana nodded dumbly, rising to her feet. The Dragon High Lord smiled, a charming crooked smile. And my name is Kitiara. How did you know? A dream, Laurana murmured. Oh yes, the dream. Kitiara ran her gloved hand through her dark curly hair. Tanis told me about the dream. I guess you all must have shared it. He thought his friends might have. The human woman glanced down at the body of Sturm, lying at her feet. Odd, isn't it, the way Sturm's death came true? And Tanis said the dream came true for him as well, the part where I saved his life. Laurana began to tremble. Her face, which had already been white with exhaustion, was so drained of blood it seemed transparent. Tanis? You've seen Tanis? Just 2 days ago, Kitiara said. I left him in Flotsam to look after matters while I was gone.
Ha! Oof. Look after matters.
Kitiara's cold, calm words drove through Laurana's soul like the High Lord's spear had driven through Sturm's flesh. Laurana thinks she's lying, then looks at her and knows she's not. She falls. Kitiara picks up the dragon lance and says, oh, so this is the famed dragon lance. And Laurana's like, yeah, if you want to see how effective it is, there's a place down at the bottom of the fortress where you'll see the work it was able to do to your dragons. And she's like, it wasn't this that lured my dragons into your trap, nor scattered my army to the four winds. And then like, yeah, you won today, but it won't happen again. She goes to take the lance. She's like, thank you for the weapon. We've received reports of it. We're going to leave. And then as she's flying away, she just like drops the lance again.
I think it's actually just even more demoralizing that way. She looks at it and she's like, I don't need this. You can have it back. And just tosses it down. But I think the part that Kit's not telling us is that she's got this item of pure good in her hand, and it's either burning the hell out of her or burning the hell out of her dragon. And he's like, you need to drop that thing like right now.
Got it. Okay, I didn't think about that. It's like a holy item.
Yeah. Still, though, I love that scene of her just insolently just throwing it down and just being like, nah, y'all can have it. I don't need this crap.
And as she's leaving, she says, you need to bury him. He deserves a knight's burial. 3 days truce for you to like do that. When like, honestly, it's going to take her probably longer than that to get her army back together because...
Yeah, like she's got to find all the Draconians that have been scattered to the three winds or whatever.
Yeah.
And Lauren's like, screw you and screw this. I'll do what I'm not going to need your help for my people. Yeah, and then Kit leaves and is like...
Laurana says, like, are you going to tell Tanis about what Sturm says?
Or yeah, what are you going to tell Tanis? And she's like...
I'm not going to tell him anything. Manipulating Tanis, she's not going to tell him, oh, by the way, I had to go and kill your best friend.
Yeah, it's sick.
And that is how chapter 14 ends. And we have one last section here, the epilogue, the funeral, before we end Dragons of Winter Night.
God. Man. Now think about it. Autumn Twilight ended with a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Winter Night ends with a funeral. Like, whoa. Whoa.
There was a spark of hope at the end of Twilight. And at this one, it's like, oof, is there any hope?
Well, like literally the first line of this chapter is Winter's night was dark and starless. Also, there's no chapter picture.
Autumn Twilight was the same way. It opens with a not chapter and then it closes with a not chapter.
Got it. But yeah, like Winter's night was dark and starless.
Yeah. So it's night. The battlements are empty. A cruel wind, right? Because it's the winter. There's no watch. The knights have spent the day burying their dead. Tas found the sepulchre of the High Clerist's tower deep below the tower. And that's where they're burying. I mean, they're not burying. I guess they're interring them. They're just wrapped in cloth. I don't know where they found all the cloth because like, oh, they didn't have time for coffins. And it's like, well, where did you find all the cloth to wrap up hundreds of dead bodies?
I'm sure they had like curtains or something.
They carried the bodies of their comrades down to the chamber of Paladine and laid them in long rows upon the cold stone floor. The bodies were draped with ancient winding sheets which had been meant for the ceremonial wrapping. There was no time for that either. Each dead knight's sword was laid upon his breast, while some token of the enemy, an arrow, a battered shield, or the claws of a dragon were laid at his feet.
Yeah, so they're in the chamber of Paladine, which is this basically crypt/tomb deep underneath the tower, because this is the High Clerist Tower. Obviously, it was a religious center. So these guys had room for burying like their honored leaders, their dead, their famed people. It's sort of like Westminster Abbey buries like Shakespeare and other famous people, but like they wouldn't normally have laid all of the soldiers of all time under here. But
they didn't have time for anything else. And
yeah, these are the ones who died defending the tower. They get to be here.
Yeah. Finally, they bring in the last three. They bring in Derek. They bring in, what's his name? Sir
Alfred Markennan.
Yeah, Sir Alfred and Sturm. And it says normally this would have been a state funeral with the Grand Master, the High Clerist, and the High Justice overseeing. But here it's an elf maid, an old dwarf, and a kender.
Mm-hmm.
Sturm has the star jewel, which was the piece of jewelry that fell. That was the item that Alhana gave him all the way back in Tarsus.
Yep.
Yeah. It's explained here that this is how Sturm and the others were ensnared in the dream. And that Sturm didn't even know what the star jewel was.
He just was like, this was a beautiful woman that I saved, gave it to me.
Yeah. But that she thinks this is now how Sturm and her and everyone else was dragged into the dream because Sturm was psychically connected to Alhana through the star jewel. And they were just psychically connected to him because they're really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
She gives a speech. She kind of wished it was someone else. She's like, I'm not a leader. I'm not Tanis. I'm not Elistan. It's not a nice speech. She's kind of like rubbing their nose in it.
Right. Like this is not exactly the time and place for a heroic speech of triumph in their life or whatever. Because like they lost badly. Their entire army is dead. And like Laurana is just like furious. She's like, you left me to cope with this by myself. And first Tanis and Elistan and now you. It's like, I'm not strong enough. Can't let you go, Sturm. Your death was senseless and meaningless, a fraud and a sham. I won't let you go. Not quietly, not without anger. And then she lifts her head and she's like, you expect a noble speech honoring the heroic deeds of the men who have died. Well, you won't get it. Not from me. And the knights are like,
They're getting angry. It says the knights glanced at each other, faces dark.
Yeah, they're like, what are you doing, lady? And she's like, these men, who should have been united in a brotherhood forged when Kryn was young, died in bitter discord brought about by pride, ambition, and greed. Your eyes turned to Derek Crownguard, but he was not totally to blame. You are. All of you who took sides in this reckless bid for power. And the knights are just like, excuse me?
Some of them have some shame, but the rest are like, what is going on? And she's like, only one man was above this. Only one man here among you lived the code every day of his life. And for most of those days, he was not a knight, or rather he was a knight where it meant the most, in spirit, in heart, not in some official list.
Oh man, the next paragraph though. Reaching behind her, Laurana took the blood-stained dragonlance from the altar and raised it high over her head. Now there's an image, right? And as she lifted the lance, her spirit was lifted. The wings of darkness that had hovered around her were banished. When she raised her voice, the knights stared at her in wonder. Her beauty blessed them like the beauty of the dawning spring day. That's not foreshadowing at all.
Tomorrow I will leave this place, Laurana said softly, her luminous eyes on the dragonlance. I will go to Palanthas. I will take with me the story of this day. I will take this lance and the head of a dragon. I will dump that sinister, bloody head upon the steps of their magnificent palace. I will stand upon the dragon's head and make them listen to me, and Palanthos will listen. They will see their danger. And then I will go to Sandcrest, and to Urgoth, and to every other place in this world where people refuse to lay down their petty hatreds and join together. For until we conquer the evils within ourselves, as this man did, we can never conquer the great evil that threatens to engulf us. And then she calls upon Paladine. She says, Paladine, we come to you. Paladine, escorting the souls of these noble knights who died in the High Clerist's tower. Give us who are left behind in this war-torn world the same nobility of spirit that graces this man's death. And then, she ended the speech. All the other knights start this prayer. It's a prayer to the great and ancient god Paladine. It's an old prayer. It's some more of the poetry. We're not going to read it here.
Yeah, feel free to read it. It is kind of wild that they have Lord Huma delivering the souls of these knights, but I guess it does make sense that Huma would be their Jesus figure. He was the greatest knight. He was the one who fought the Dark Queen and won. So it would make sense for them to use him as a totemic, guide of their souls to Valhalla.
He's like a psychopomp. He's like guiding the souls of the dead to
whatever their reward is.
And so the chant ended. You think here you're reading this, and on my copy, it's the end of the page, right? They say the prayer, and then it says the chant ended. The knights leave, and it's just Laurana, Flint, and Tasselhoff stood alone. There's a wind upon the open door where the honor guard stood ready to seal the chamber, and you're like, okay, that's the ending. And then you flip the page, and there's more, and you're like, okay. And then we shift to Sylvanesti.
Yeah, far away from the frozen lands of Solamnia, one other person said goodbye to Sturm Brightblade. And, Sylvanesti, we find out that it's still in thrall of the nightmare. It's still a messed up place. Everything is bad and ugly.
Yeah, the air smelled of death and decay. The trees bent and twisted in unending agony.
Yeah.
What a disturbing image to think like a tree is like in pain because of the shape it's in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
Poor Alhana is stuck in the Tower of the Stars trying to figure out how to fix it. Basically, this is kind of the summary of all the other things that happen in the story here. She would have been totally fine before with the war between the elves and the humans, but now she's seen, their humanity, and she understands that they have to unite to fight the Dark Queen. But she's like, oh, I don't want to go leave Sylvanesti. I want to fix this place first. And she dreaded, even as she longed, to see the human she loved. The knight whose proud and noble face came to her in her dreams, whose very soul she shared through the star jewel. Unknown to him, she stood beside him in his fight to save his honor. Unknown to him, she shared his agony and came to learn the depths of his noble spirit. Her love for him grew daily, as did her fear of loving him. And so she put off her departure, and she's like just sitting there waiting for something to happen. And the winter is getting longer and things are getting worse. Suddenly, she has a strange and terrifying sensation, as though the world had ceased to turn. A shattering pain pierced her body, driving her to the stone below. Sobbing in fear and grief, she clutched the star jewel she wore around her neck and watched in agony as if light flickered and died. Oh, that's a sucky way to discover something.
So this is my sign, she screamed bitterly, holding the darkened jewel in her hand and shaking it at the heavens. There is no hope. There is nothing but death and despair.
Yeah, so she gets bitter. She goes outside and tries to throw the star jewel away, tries to dig a hole near her father's grave where the ground is frozen. She's tearing her skin and nails and just like deeply, deeply angry. Lunatari's in the sky, and so the whole place is just tinged with the color of blood. And she takes the star jewel and throws it into the ground and starts to fill the hole. And suddenly, she notices a tiny glimmer of light that's growing even stronger as she's watching. And she lifts it from the grave, and she's like, what's going on? This is crazy. And she's like, but he's dead, she said softly, staring at the jewel that sparkled in Solinari's silver light, which is also in the size, Solinari and Lunari both. And she's like, I know he's dead, but why is this light here? And then suddenly, this hideous deformed tree above Lorac's grave, the limbs of the tree ceased to their tortured writhing. They hung motionless for an instant, and then with a sigh, turned towards the heavens. The trunk straightened, and the bark became smooth and began to glisten in the silver moonlight. Blood ceased to drip. The leaves felt living sap once more flow through their veins. Alhana gasped. Rising unsteadily to her feet, she looked around the land, but nothing else had changed. None of the other trees were different, only this one above Lorac's grave. And she's like, man, I'm going crazy. This is what, I don't know what the hell's going on. And she looks back and the tree's getting even more and more beautiful as it's going. She hangs the star jewel back over her chest around her neck. And the next day, as the sun is rising, she goes down and looks, and all the trees and everything is awful. There's noxious green poison in the air, everything. But the tree above Lorac's grave is beautiful and strong and growing. And so it's basically like the last light of hope that she's got is that somewhere Sturm has managed to bring with his sacrifice some kind of blessing, or like, Paladine is saying, hey, your love was not wasted and he's not dead. You need to keep hope alive here. And I think that's a really cool, poignant ending.
The last lines are, far below in Sylvanesti, one tree's beautiful green leaves stood out in splendid contrast to the black desolation of the forest around it. It swayed in the winter wind, singing soft music as it spread its limbs to shelter Lorac's grave from the winter's darkness, waiting for spring. And that is how
Dragon of Winter Night ends.
Oh man.
Oh wow, what a ride.
So you think that the light glowing is like, oh, there's an afterlife and Sturm has entered it, or it's just a gift from Paladine giving hope?
I think it's a gift from Paladine that like his noble sacrifice is, it's like, kind of his reward for that. The star jewel glows because Sturm is a symbol of hope. His whole goal is to inspire everybody. And if the star jewel went out and Alhana loses faith, that's the end, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think it's a really powerful message there.
It is the one tiny bit of hope that we get in the end of a book that actually ends pretty down.
Yeah.
As I said at the beginning of the podcast, right? Sturm is dead. The Knights of Solamnia are destroyed. Tanis is with the bad guys. Raistlin is corrupted by the orb, as far as we can tell, right? He's lusting for it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what's happening with the rest of the companions with Caramon, because like the last time we saw them in the book was literally Caramon was leaving to go back to the inn, and then Tanis went to Kitiara. So we have no idea. They had like a couple of days to get out of there. So we won't find out until the next book what happened there.
It's wild to think this Winter Night came out in July of 1985, and Spring Dawning, normally you would have like a year to wait with that hanging over you for the next book to come out. But book 3 came out in friggin' September.
I was just thinking, how long did people are still waiting for the next book in
Game of Thrones?
How long have people been waiting for Patrick Rothfuss to write the sequel to Name of the Wind?
Yeah, you can wait for the rocks to bleed water before that's going to happen, right? Like, I'm not holding my breath for that.
It's just such a fast turnaround.
Yeah, Margaret has said many times, she's like, I've never written a book that fast in my life, and I hope to never do that again.
So it's dark, and we're down here at the bottom, but hopefully Book of Spring Dawning is more cheerful than this. But what a book.
Spring Dawning is like still a messed up book, man. It's like there's a lot that happens, but things are happening now, at least. Like we are getting places, people now know who the villains are. We have the scene at Dragonlance. It's wild.
What a transformation, too, from the beginning of this book for Laurana to the end of the book.
Oh, yeah.
At the beginning of the book, there are at least 2 conversations where she's telling Elistan, look, I can't do this. I just want to be your assistant. Stop putting this on me. By the end of the book, she's commanding 50 knights, organizing them, telling them what to do. She's took on a dragon orb, a thing that King Lorac couldn't do, with some magical training. Her with no magical training.
And she just has will.
Yeah, I knew from listening to Raistlin or some parts of it about the willpower, and I just thought that like I couldn't fail. Sturm was counting on me. He said he was going to die so that I could do this, so I have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
What a transition for her. We meet Kitiara, and it turns out she's just as awful as we all suspected. How she treats Tanis, how she's using Tanis, how she came here, and as she said, oh, I knew it was Sturm when my spear went into his guts. That didn't affect her at all, right? Like, as we said, power is what's important to her. And even if her best friend is going to stand in her way, it doesn't bode well for Tanis if he decides to stay in that relationship. She can't be tampered. She can't be, you can't persuade her to go, did she have to kill Sturm? No, she probably could have disabled Sturm, right? She could have done something else. But she didn't even let her friendship get in the way. I'm not sure about this. I don't know if it's appropriate, but didn't Sturm and her spend 5 years journeying together in the park? Didn't they have a kid? Isn't there like...
They had a kid.
Yeah, like that's not here yet. And I know, but it's just like, how could you do that to the... It must have been a real dysfunctional relationship.
Or she was definitely like, first off, she was messing with him just because it's fun to mess with a hidebound virgin like that. And she did not intend to get pregnant. And then when she got pregnant, she was like, what the hell? What is this garbage? She is not multiple tiers of not a good person here.
Yeah.
She's abusive to her friends and to her relationships. I mean, she has plenty of reason to be to have her walls up or whatever. Think about killing your partner, the father of your kid. I mean, and the thing is, we didn't even know that for decades, right? Like,
yeah, but it just adds more.
It just adds another layer to like how messed up this is. But I mean, that's why I prefer the Darkness and Light book, which has the two of them traveling to Lunatari instead, because it's just way more fun. But it's insane. It's completely insane. But it makes certain scenes way cooler in Summer Flame later.
Well, and I think it's doing a really good job of setting up Laurana against Kitiara for the Tanis storyline, but also just for the Laurana storyline. As you said, she's going to be the Golden General. And so she's going to be commanding an army, and Kit is Kitiara commanding an army. And the differences in how they do it, it's just a real interesting how the authors have set them up as kind of opposing figures. Different kinds of strong women, right?
Yeah. It sets up a whole nother layer to the light versus darkness kind of story here.
Tas becomes like a much more fleshed out character here. Even Fizban becomes a much more fleshed out character in this book. I'm excited for Spring Dawning.
Oh, yeah.
I have vague recollections of where it's going.
Oh, there's some real fun things in there.
It's some real vague. Like, I don't know how much... Sturm's death is kind of like, oh, that really stands out as something that happened. Just how I have real strong recollections for Autumn Twilight when the dragon broke the chain and it collapsed on Barum and the spy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what I remember from Spring Dawning, and I think it's only...
We'll get to it when we get to it.
Spoilers, but the only part I remember, so if you don't want to hear anything about it, just... You can skip ahead to the end here. But all I remember is about them finding the eggs of the
Draconians?
The metallic dragons. That's all I remember and what we learned. So that's all I remember from Spring Dawning.
I remember a lot.
Yeah, of course you do.
So I'm just going to leave it at that. But with that, my friends, that brings us to the end of this season of Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast and the end of this book of Dragons of Winter Night. Absolutely delightful. Thank you all for joining us and coming with us on this ride. It has been super fun, and John and I are loving this. And we hope to have a special episode in between before we get to starting Spring Dawning. And then we'll be taking some time off.
Quick editor's note. Before we go, I want to let everyone know that in July we'll be airing our interview with Jeff Grubb, who helped design Monster Manual 2 for AD&D, worked with Margaret and Tracy on Dragonlance, including creating Tweaker Gnomes, authored the first edition Manual of the Planes, was the creative force behind Spelljammer and Al-Qadim, and is the author of numerous works of fiction, including Lord Toad, a Shivam favorite, as well as works of fiction in the Magic the Gathering universe, Forgotten Realms, Ravenloft, and Azure Bonds. We will be taking a break in August, but we'll be back in September with the first episode of Season 3 of the podcast, Dragons of Spring Dawning. As always, thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing the new season with you. Have a great summer.
With that, though, I've been Shivam, and that's my friend John. As always, you can support us at patreon.com/Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast.
Come find us at our Blue Sky accounts, Facebook group, Discord links. Those are all in the show notes. And why don't you tell them about your other podcasts?
And you can also hear me on Casual Magic or Shivam Wheeler Love Magic. It's been great, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
This is now the most important thing to me. You know what's super annoying?
What?
Adobe Acrobat. Since we've already decided to derail this, I will abandon this in just a minute. I just need to... I love that you and I just pronounce his name differently every time.